The History of Video Games. Brought to you by the National Museum of Toys and Miniatures, Kansas City Video Game Developers, and the University of Missouri Kansas City School of Computing and Engineering. Video games take our imaginations to other worlds, but did you know these tech toys can also help kids develop skills that are important in STEM careers that focus on science, technology, engineering, and math? In this video, we'll travel through the history of video games and uncover the STEM skills these technological toys can teach. Then, we'll meet two cool people who use STEM skills to create video games and hear their thoughts on the future of gaming. In 1972, the Magnavox company introduced the Odyssey, the first video game home console. The video games on the Odyssey had very limited graphics, and the console was sold with transparent overlays kids could put on their television screens to add additional visuals for the games. Odyssey video games also used traditional game elements like actual dice and cards that kids were more familiar with at the time. Video games and STEM fun fact number 1. Playing with electronic toys like video games provides positive experiences with technology and can help you develop a love for STEM and an interest in future STEM careers. Do you think you might enjoy creating video games as a career? Not long after the release of the Odyssey, Atari released the extremely popular game Pong for arcades. Video game arcades are businesses where people can play video game machines like those seen here from TM's Bridging the Gender Divide exhibit. With the success of Pong in arcades, Atari released a version of the game in 1975 that people could play in their homes. Video games and STEM fun fact number 2. Video games like Tetris, where players move and rotate different shapes to fit together into specific spaces, can help you develop spatial reasoning, a skill very important in STEM careers such as construction and engineering. Can you think of a video game you play where you have to move pieces around? After the release of Pong, the popularity of video game home consoles really took off. Many companies were releasing their own systems and games, like this Atari 2600 from 1981. Unfortunately, there were too many companies creating video games, and not always very good ones. Because of this, the video game market experienced a huge crash in 1983. Video games and STEM fun fact number 3. When playing video games, you develop strategic thinking, learning from when things don't go as planned and changing your strategy to win the game. Many STEM professionals, like researchers, use this skill when conducting experiments to develop important solutions. Can you think of a time you had to change something you did in a video game in order to succeed? It was the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985 that helped revive the video game market, making home consoles a toy that was here to stay. Nintendo was picky about the games they chose for their consoles, requiring them to meet high-quality standards. Games were marketed with the official Nintendo seal of quality, so players would know they were buying a good game. Video games and STEM fun fact number 4. Many multiplayer video games can help you develop the skill of collaboration, a skill important in many STEM careers such as those in the healthcare field. Can you think of a video game you enjoy playing as a team with friends? As more and more kids discovered the joy of video games, there was a growing desire to be able to play them anywhere, not just at home. In response, Nintendo introduced the handheld Game Boy system that kids could take with them on the go. This Game Boy from 1992 came with a portable carrying case, and kids could purchase additional accessories like this screen magnifier. Now that you've learned a bit about the history of video games and the STEM skills you can learn by playing them, let's meet two awesome people who use STEM skills to create video games for fun. Alexa is a graduate of the University of Missouri Kansas City's School of Computing and Engineering, and Ben is a member of the group Kansas City Video Game Developers. Hi Ben, can you tell us about a STEM skill you use when creating video games?
One of the skills that you'll use in video game design is math, which I actually, when I was a kid, I did not like math at all. Even in high school, I just did not like it because I was one of those kids that thought, when am I ever going to use this? Well, it turns out math is super important for animation and programming and video game design in general. And that's when I started to find these fun ways of using math, that's when I decided I actually love math.
Cool. Can you show us how you use math when creating video games?
So in this game, you take off in a rocket ship, and you can start building extra components onto the ship to make it bigger. So as an example of how math is involved, you notice the top of the ship, it always knows to be snapped onto the very top of the ship. So whenever I add a new part, it moves up. Well, computers are not smart enough to know to do this, so I have to tell it where to put that cone, the top of the ship, where to put it vertically every time I add a new piece. If this is 2 meters, I know exactly where this cone needs to be placed in the vertical axis based on how many pieces of the ship there are. So in programming, we start with 0. So this is the 0th piece. I know it sounds weird. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the cone is obviously 6. So the math I would do in the scripting is 6 times 2 is 12. So this piece will be placed 12 meters high. So anytime if I were to add a 7th piece, it would take 7 times 2, and so forth.
Hey Alexa, can you tell us about some of the video games and virtual reality experiences you've programmed or designed?
My very first video game, the one that I did art for, took place in a nightclub for polar bears. So the better the music, then the more polar bears would show up. The goal of the game was to keep the music as awesome as possible so more polar bears would come. More recently, I created a virtual reality experience that takes place in the old city of Jerusalem, and it allows you to walk around the area of the Kotel and even play around with the stray cats. This right here is one of the graphics that I created for the polar bear game. This was a turntable that the player could use to make the music awesome. So this right here is the virtual reality experience of Jerusalem. And as you can see, the cats work on artificial intelligence and they approach the player, which would be located right here at this camera, and then they sit down. So you can explore around the area. Over there is the Western Wall. We've got the Dome of the Rock up there and just some other things to look at. Through the virtual reality headset, this is what that looks like. So we see here that the cats are approaching. They sit down as they approach the player. And as the player backs away, the cats follow.
How do you think technology like video games and virtual reality might be used in the future?
For the future of video games, I can see a lot more applications of virtual reality in everyday life. So I could see schools implementing a virtual classroom to pair with online learning. I could maybe see, virtual travel becoming popular. Possibly even something like Zooming or Skyping with somebody, but through the use of virtual reality so you can sit together at a coffee shop. There might even be advancements in degree programs in schools or in hospitals or workplaces. Future dentists or ophthalmologists or heart surgeons, they might be able to get some practice performing procedures before they work on a person.
What advice do you have for kids who might be interested in video game programming or design?
My advice to you, if you want to become a game designer, is first just decide you're a game designer and then start coming up with ideas. And so that might be, you might come up with an idea for a game. Maybe you take some ideas about games that you currently like to play. Think about what it is that you love about those games and come up with something new using some of the different things that you like. And write your ideas down, draw pictures of what you think it'll look like, and just start learning.
So for anybody who has even a slight interest in STEM, I highly encourage you to start exploring the resources that are available for you. There are so many different things out there and so many different options, and I promise that you will find something out there for you.
Thanks for joining the National Museum of Toys and Miniatures, Kansas City Video Game Developers, and the University of Missouri Kansas City School of Computing and Engineering for this TM2Go video. Now that you've learned about video games, download the activity page to create your own pixelated picture. Don't forget to share the pictures you create with us on social media and share the activity with your friends. We'll see you next time.